Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Daily Night. I am Brian Smith, your host, and I'm also the publisher at Inside the Nights on Fan Nation, powered by Sports Illustrated. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about recruiting in the northern section of the state of Florida, specifically the Panhandle region, kind of Panama City / the ability to go up all the way to the Georgia line and in between, obviously, Tallahassee, and going west all the way out to Niceville and to Navarre and Pensacola, all the areas in between. There are a lot of different players there, and it's something that I think a lot of college coaches are missing, and it's something I wanted to see for myself. I've actually stopped in Quincy, just west of Tallahassee, and checked out some of the kids at Monroe, and I also stopped in the greater Pensacola area. C3 Elite 7-on-7 has a lot of great players on that team, and they get players from all around the Pensacola area, and I know Coach Carter well, so I went to create a little bit of a workout the other night. I've got video and stuff that I'm still working on, but I do have a video reel that's going to be inside the article at Inside the Nights. Talking about some of the players, though, that's what this is about, this specific podcast. I've got a list here on my phone of the players, and quite frankly, I'd seen them play a little bit, but when you're at a 7-on-7 tournament, you don't always see everybody because you just see a glimpse. It's not enough. You need reps and tons and tons and tons of them. Watching film and understanding players is, unfortunately, there is no shortcut. You need a ton of reps. And when you're at a 7-on-7 tournament, which is where I'd seen most of these kids before, you get a little glimpse here or there, but the ball is spread around, players rotate in and out. It's to gain a better perspective of football. It's also a recruiting tool, which is what I'm there for, but that's not the primary. 7-on-7 was created for another way to extend football and for teams to learn more about each other, because football is the most complex sport on earth. It's all about timing and rhythm, and getting 11 guys to play together is hard. The 7-on-7 gives you an introduction, though, and then when you go to a workout, it's a further application. So I enjoyed the opportunity to see it. I learned about some of the players, and again, some of the kids that I have here got all their Twitter handles and stuff, and that's all going to be in the article. This is something that college coaches need to pay attention to. They are failing miserably in the state of Florida, which is ironic considering #1 in the country for NFL draft picks this past April with 37. Again, #1. The Panhandle has some of those players, and for whatever reason, a lot of schools miss on. Now, if it tells you anything, Georgia's ranked #1, and they're recruiting some of these kids. What does that tell you? Kirby doesn't miss much. Why aren't other schools doing that? Again, there's some that are, but it's way too limited. Even Notre Dame, they've been down there some. It's starting to spread a little bit, but it's nowhere near where it should be. Florida, Florida State, Alabama, Auburn, Georgia, not surprised. They recruited somewhat, and Florida State in particular, because they're in the Panhandle with Tallahassee being located there. But what about other schools? Miami, to a certain degree, has over the years, but not a lot. UCF under Coach Malzahn has done a pretty decent job with it, but they could probably increase it. He's familiar with it because he coached at Auburn for a long time. That being stated, LSU, a little bit. The Mississippi schools, not really. They should. They're probably the one out of all of them that I'm surprised don't hit the Panhandle even more than they do. And it's interesting that Tennessee, to a degree, South Carolina, to a degree, will hit it. Clemson's all over the map. They're super, super picky about everything. I don't really agree with their recruiting philosophy in general. They want everybody to come to campus first. That's just not realistic. Some of the Panhandle kids, they don't have a lot of money. That's not going to happen. But some of these coaches try to get them there too. So that's helpful. With that being stated, I'm just going to kind of go over some of these kids and just talk about them. It's just generic kind of overview, but again, inside the article is more information to find out about them, and you can contact Coach Carter. I'll have that at the bottom of the article. So first kid I want to talk about, I'm just going to start from front to back, is Battle Alberson. He's a sophomore. He's going to be a junior next fall. He plays for C3 Elite. Quarterback, he's much more mobile now than when I saw him in the spring playing for C3 Elite, and I thought it was pretty interesting to watch him throw the other night because, excuse me, the one thing that you really have to do in today's game is move laterally in the pocket. You don't have to be Bryce Young as an accuracy guy, although it helps. But if you watch Bryce, he doesn't run very much. Battle fits what Bryce is in terms of his style. He's not as accurate as Bryce Young, but hardly anybody else is either. He's learning, and he's gotten much stronger, much bigger just in 6 months. He's at that point, he's kind of hitting the growth spurt. He's over 6 feet tall. I'd say he's 170 pounds. I'm just guessing, but he's going to be a Power 5 quarterback. And his accuracy, especially on the deep ball, was pretty good the other night. And again, see the video reel here in the article that this is in, but he's not a kid that is done growing by any means. He's just starting. He could be a 215-pound kid in a few years. That's just part of growing up and becoming a man. I expect him to also develop, though, above the shoulders. He's good at it now. He understands concepts and he picks up things. When he was given an instruction, he was able to do it immediately. Not every guy can do that. A lot of quarterbacks have this arm or this arm, whichever it is, that's dominant for them. Is good, but they don't know where the hell they're throwing it. And it's terrible. There are a lot of guys like that right now in the SEC, just as an example. They couldn't throw it in the ocean if they swam in it, though. Same with the ACC. And it's the difference between winning and losing. Bryce Young has a pretty good arm, just as an example. He does not have the same arm that the guy that starts at Auburn does. Which one's the better quarterback? It's not even close. The kid, Finley, that started Auburn, is still developing, and he's got a rocket launcher, but he doesn't know where the ball should go all the time yet. That's just part of it. Some guys develop quicker. We'll see if Finley gets better. But that's one of the things that I noticed about Alberson. He's already picked up things just from when I saw him in like March, April, compared to early December. That is totally different. So that's a good sign for him. Moving forward, one of the kids I was really hoping to see, but he had a lower leg fracture or whatever. It was something small, but it's one of those things that happens in football. Xavier Hamilton, he's a linebacker. He's going to be a Power 5 guy wherever. Penn State's all over him. He has several other schools involved, and he's got some offers. I expect him to do very well at the college level, and he'll probably be a 20-plus offer guy. He really doesn't need any help in regards to his recruitment. He's a sophomore, but you're going to hear Xavier Hamilton's name a lot. So I'm not going to really gloss on him any longer. He's going to be just fine. The kid that I found most interesting, and I hadn't seen him before, he's only a freshman, and he had over 800 receiving yards. And you can kind of tell with skill guys a little quicker. Do they have the ability to change direction? How good is their hand-eye coordination? Basic things you just need to see in space. That's it. Kobe Howard was as good a player as there was there, and he's only a freshman. Plays at Catholic High School in Pensacola. He will be a national recruit, and he has a chance to be an NFL player just based on raw physical skill. No idea how well he's going to pick up the game and understanding coverages and all that, because the higher the level you go, the more you have to understand the concept of post-snap read, which is something colleges really don't do that much, and it really irritates the people at the NFL because they're all about it. So we'll see. But physically, he has all the tools you want. He's about 6 foot, 5'11", something like that. And he can flat out go. And he is super twitchy. He had over 800 receiving yards as a freshman for a program that doesn't have like a great quarterback or anything. It's just a good high school football program. But he's only a freshman. He has 3 more years. And compared to some of the other kids here who are already getting recruited by elite programs, Florida State, Georgia, et cetera, for him to stand out tells me a lot. This, again, national recruit. There's no doubt about it. He just has to stay focused and stay on the course. So Kobe Howard, if you are not recruiting him, you are failing. Next kid up is a tight end that I found very interesting. Today's tight end, I'll use Bowers at Georgia. If you cannot play, quote unquote, attached from the line of scrimmage, you're not as valuable in the spread offensive formations. You can still be used, but it's not the same. Jade Mchale is not just a guy that can play one or the other. He can play both. He's got pretty good hands. He's got a frame. He's got a kid or a man's build in terms of he's got some shoulders on him. I think he's going to be 235, 240. He's a spread tight end, and he can block some too. I don't think that's going to be any problem. Good kid, well-spoken, caught and ran just like you would with a big receiver. But he's a class of 2023 player, so he has another year. And again, he's another kid from the Pensacola area. So it's not just skill guys that you think of at running back and receiver. There are some other guys there too. The kids that are really interesting that went up against Howard and competed with him are the next three in particular. Jabril Rawls, he's a DB. He could play receiver, but he just carries himself like a DB. Class of 23 player, really twitchy, really long. I had a little competition in regards to winning a pair of gloves that I bought. They were pretty expensive gloves. And he was catching one-handed catches, catching around and stuff like that. He's got huge hands. I think he's the kind of guy that's going to surprise some people in college. If he lived where I did in Tampa, he'd have a ton of offers. It's just how it works. Central Florida gets hammered with college coaches. I'm not sure which school he's at in the greater Pensacola area, but it doesn't matter. He has the raw skill. He plays a position that's very easy to evaluate in corner. Long as hell, has the ability to run, change direction, takes the ability of getting the information and putting it into motion very quickly. He bends well. He's got good hands. There's nothing not to like about him. So that's a kid I'm kind of curious to see what happens. I know he's got schools looking at him, but there's probably, I would say 50% of what he would have. Again, I live in Tampa. He would have more than that, maybe twice, if not more, if he lived where I do. The next kid, this is kind of funny. Terrence Marshall, quiet kid, doesn't say much, just does what he does, makes plays, goes on about his business. He could play receiver. He could play DB. He prefers receiver. That's kind of what everybody projects him at. But the way I evaluate kids, if you can play corner or at least play free safety and be in some man situations, from a physical waist down situation, you can play anything. It is not natural to play corner. And what I mean by that is, what's more natural for a human being? Running forward or running backwards? Well, that's rhetorical. He can do either, and it's no big deal. He just doesn't say much when he's doing it. He's a quiet kid. He's a kid that's going to be a Florida State, Georgia, Auburn kind of guy, and he represents what's going on in the Panhandle. He's a class of 24 kid that probably doesn't get as much attention from recruiting gurus as he should. And maybe it's because he's quiet. I don't know, but I just think it's location once again. If you're not recruiting Marshall, if you're not recruiting his brother, who's I'm going to talk about momentarily, then again, you're failing. These are really good players. Tyrell's his brother. He's the DB. They're interchangeable to me, but I look at things at a broad spectrum. I don't really know which one I would like better. If I could only pick one, that would be hard. I haven't seen enough of them. Both of them have the ability to play in the secondary, though, and be in man coverage. So, again, Terrence, Tyrell, doesn't really matter. They're both at C3 elite. It's not hard to get at them. Big time upside. That is the bottom line with both, because they both have the ability to play in the secondary. That's where I start. Everything that I get asked by college coaches, that's where it is. Turner McLaughlin is just the opposite of these kids in terms of mentality. He's not necessarily like a loud kid or whatever, but he reminds me of an old school in the box linebacker, but he has better feet than that. And he can play H-back, tight end, whatever. And he's going to be a kid that ends up playing Power 5 football as well, in my opinion. I really don't know what his best position is yet, because when you evaluate linebacker, you have to see them hit. I mean, it's good to see him in space, and he can run and move laterally. That's good. But how physical are they? I don't know that, because, it's just a workout. They're not even in shoulder pads. Turner is an athlete that has the ability to catch the football well. He didn't really care what they asked him to do, whether it was out wide, whether it was playing closer to the line of scrimmage, near the quarterback, out routes, out and up, whatever it may be. He's fine, but his mentality is a box player. I see him as a will linebacker, outside linebacker, or a H-back. That's the kind of situation where you're in a situation that you just kind of have to put him in a camp setting to get a better idea, but you need to see him live in a game. Linebacker for me is one of the hardest positions to evaluate, because in today's game, if they can't cover, you're screwed. I mean, they're going to get exposed in today's spread offenses. If they go up against a team like SMU that throws the ball 50 times, good luck. You have to make sure they can handle that. I don't know if he can hit in those scenarios again, because he didn't play in pads, but the way he moved, especially offensively, that's what they focused on at this workout, was very good. He's a class of 24 player. And again, if you get a hold of Dwayne, he can tell you more than I do. Overall, this is a scenario that really needs to change. From Mobile all the way on I-10 to Jacksonville, it's all I-10. It is as good per capita as there is in the United States of America. Mobile, I think, is number 1 or top 3 or whatever for like that mid-sized city in producing NFL talent. Shimar James, by the way, the big-time linebacker that everybody wants. He's as good a linebacker as there is in the country. He's from Mobile. He's another guy that played with C3 Elite. This is the situation where people dismiss randomly. It's not like it's hard to get to Pensacola. There is an airport there. So he's been in both areas. He's lived in both. But again, football in that area means a lot. The kids want to play. Why more schools don't do it, I really don't know. So anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit about this area. I'm going to talk some about some of the kids in the Tallahassee area coming up. I did some interviews with them as well. And quite frankly, I'm looking forward to scouting it more. It's going to be something that I do over the next 6 to 8 months before next football season. I'm going to try to hit South Georgia, South Alabama, in that area along the Panhandle, just to see it, Bainbridge, any of the schools in South Alabama that I can think of, Enterprise, something like that. Just see facilities, see what the kids are like, how much of it relates from Pensacola to Mobile, from Jacksonville up to some school like Lee County in South Georgia. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. But every town that I've been to so far, kids love football. Kids will play different positions. Kids will leave home. College coaches are looking to spend as little time as possible because of money. I get it. They're on budgets. But the kids down here, out of all these kids, I asked Dwayne, hey, how many of these kids would leave the greater Pensacola area, not just go to Auburn or Florida State? And he thought all but one of the kids that I just went over would go wherever. He thought one of them would probably end up at Florida State or Auburn or something like that, a little closer. He's more of a homebody, but everybody else is like, I don't care. So, again, like Xavier's really talking to Penn State. It's not like Penn State is close to the city of Pensacola in Florida. So that puts things in perspective. So if you're a college coach out there and you're not recruiting the greater Pensacola area, that's on you. There's no reason not to do it. That being stated, I'm going to wrap it up here. Hope everybody has a great Friday. I'm going to see Travis Hunter and Collins Hill play Grayson tonight in the greater Atlanta area, one of the best games in the country. I'm going to be reporting on that some tomorrow. Travis is as good a player as there is in the country and the twitchiest kid I've ever seen. But there are a lot of other guys on the field, too. I mean, this is a loaded D1 game, so I'm going to be doing some of that, so check it out as well. Everybody be good. Take care.